Hey friends, welcome back to Once More with Feelings.
An emotional roller coaster of a podcast where we go over media such as movies, music, and more. Of course, lately we've been doing
Comedies.
So far comedies. Will we call the last one a comedy?
It was called a comedy, but I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a comedy. It was more of an unintentional drama, which kind of in itself makes it a comedy, I guess.
A dramedy?
A dramedy. We'll go with dramedy. So, we've had a long week. You've been dealing with...
I don't know. Some weird adrenal gland weirdness in my stomach that's caused worse pain than childbirth. And honestly, I don't wish this upon anybody except for maybe like 3 people in politics.
And I've been dealing with inventory.
Fun times.
From a medical supply group, so that's always fun. Very detailed oriented.
I don't know if anybody out there listening happens to work in education or anything like that, but it has been a kind of a win week for me though in education because I've got almost half of my Amazon wish list cleared for my classroom due to some pretty amazing generous donations, and we might be getting an outside play area that's enclosed. So that's 2 huge wins that I did not expect on the only 2 days of work I had this week.
That's good. What is it we're going to be looking at today? Get into the real nitty-gritty of the film, because it is a film again. Mm-hmm. Though, I think we got some music coming in on the horizon.
Yes, I believe after the new year we have some music.
Nice.
We rewatched the 1985 movie Enemy Mine.
That's enemy, mine. If you're not sure, we're not talking about a mine in the ground that is trying to kill people. We're talking about...
It's almost my enemy.
Possessive mine.
Yes, like my enemy. And we will come back to that in a bit because honestly, there's a funny little tidbit about that. So, Enemy Mine, like I said, 1985. It was directed by Wolfgang Petersen. And not going to lie, first things first, Wolfgang is to me one of the coolest names.
Yeah, it is. I like Wolfgang, but I also like the fact that he directed the never-ending freaking story.
And Das Boot.
I know, that's weird, right?
Yes.
That's such a strange...
So you guys have to understand, when we were watching the movie, there's a scene where this little red boot is going through a conveyor belt, like I guess it's like for body part processing or something.
No, it was mining processing.
It was mining processing. It was a little red boot, and Beth goes, Das Boot. And I went, and I didn't want to say anything during the movie, but I wanted to say yes. And he did that in 1981.
I know, that was the joke.
I didn't realize that's where you were going. I didn't realize you knew.
I was being witty.
Oh, look at that.
My wit is very dry, apparently.
Well, I like the name Wolfgang because we have talked about having goats someday. And we said that we would name one Wolfgang Amadeus Goatsart and Johann Sebastian Bach.
And we're still going to keep to those when we own goats one day.
If we own goats someday.
So he also directed Outbreak.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. That one I didn't put down on my list.
He did Outbreak, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
If you like outbreak movies, Outbreak is the movie you want to watch about outbreaks.
But as we have lived through the panorama that we call the pandemic, I don't know if I want to re-watch that one. And honestly,
But this one has monkeys.
Is that one the one with the Ebola kind of squint sideways and you can see it references?
I'm not sure. We might have to rewatch that. It was the monkeys that I focused on.
Oh, well, I mean, that was why I watched the original Project X and not the one about the weird party. There's 2 Project X movies.
Oh.
There's the good one with Matthew Broderick.
That's the only one I know.
And then there's one about some weird party, I believe. I don't know. I don't know anything much about it. I just know it has the same name as our beloved Project X.
Okay. So what is Enemy Mine about?
Well.
Is it about a mine which kills prospectors? See, I made that joke during the movie too.
Yes, and I ignored it as well. Well, being that there is a mine in the movie, it wasn't in the original novella. So
It is based on a book.
it is based on not a book, a novella that was actually featured
So a
in
bookish.
a baby book by Barry B. Longyear. It was in the September 1979 edition of Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine. And it also, because of that, in 1979, it won a Nebula Award. And we share something in common. Not in 1980, because mine came in the early 2000 teens. We both have Hugo Awards. So
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. So his is more distinguished. He has a Hugo Award that he earned for, it's a Hugo Award in, novellas. And mine is because I have 3 pieces of work on Archive of Our Own in the supernatural fan fiction. So there you go. But I did win. I am a part of that Universal Hugo Award that we won. So, but yeah. So, do you have the IMDb description for this movie?
I actually do.
Okay.
You know me so well. At the height of the devastating intergalactic war between humans and the bipedal reptilian humanoids known as the Drax, the Earthling single-seat fighter pilot Willis Davidge?
Davidge.
I can't say that. Davidge and the Sororian pilot, I'm not going to say that right either, Jerry, engage in a furious dogfight as both sworn enemies crash land on the desolate, inhospitable planet Firene 4.
Ooh.
I'm not saying Firene right, but someone will correct me.
It's Jariba. Shigan.
Yeah, I said Jerry. They will have to put aside their hatred for each other, share knowledge and experience to fight the forces of nature, and above all, work in unison to survive.
Fight the forces of nature in 1980s sound effects. The trees crashing, and what was the other one? Oh, the fists when they were fighting.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to point out something. In 1985, I had not known this before, but apparently there is no modulation of volume.
Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
I hate the sound people so much because my nerves were jarred the entire time. And honestly, I don't remember this in 1985.
I don't remember it either.
I was 15 years old and I do not remember it being this jarring. But now I know why my parents cringed whenever I watched it.
I honestly, to tell you the truth, I thought I remembered more of this movie, and then watching it, I forgot a lot of this movie.
I'm telling you what you forgot. What you forgot was that Jerry isn't in half the bloody movie.
No, I remember that Jerry wasn't in half the movie.
Because I forgot that. Because I kept going, wait a minute, he's dead?
Die?
I don't remember this part. Spoilers, Jerry dies.
Jerry dies. Not before giving birth, because Jerry's species, the Drax, are both male and female. And they don't have a choice about when they are going to get knocked up. It just happens. So we can use Beth's least favorite version of pregnancy and say that Jerry got prego.
Oh, God, I hate that so much. That is the one thing I don't like Stephen King for, is using preggers.
Preggers, that was it. Preggers, not prego.
Yes.
Okay, that was my bad. I screwed it up too.
It's okay. So it stars Dennis Quaid.
Yes, which
as the human,
yes.
Willis Davidge. He's Will. And Louis Gossett Jr., who is a fine man. He was always a fine man.
Always. And honestly, I think just having this Jerry mask on is the only time I've ever said, Lou. What? Lou, what's up with that?
See, I tend to remember him specifically about Iron Eagle. I don't know why that's where my mind goes every time I think of Louis Gossett Jr. Because he's done a lot of work.
Oh, my Lord. Okay, so I know that normally right now we would be talking about the movie and how we feel about it, but honestly, I need to talk about these actors. So we're going to start with Dennis Quaid. We're going to go least to best, in my opinion. And nothing against Dennis. I don't know enough about him personally. I've heard things, but again, I don't know enough to say I dislike him at this moment. but that doesn't mean that anything really. But he is known for Big Easy, Stripes, my personal favorite movie, Inner Space.
Inner Space.
I love Inner Space because I
best.
love Martin Short. He started his acting career when he was 21 in 1975, okay? There's a point to this. He was 31 years old when he did Enemy Mine. Louis Gossett Jr., you guys probably know him from Roots and An Officer and a Gentleman. He started his acting career when he was 21 in 1957. But, which is funny because Dennis Quaid was born in 54, so when he was a baby, But when they did Enemy Mine, Dennis Quaid was 31 and Louis Gossett Jr. was 49 years old. And I just think I'm 50, so I really appreciate that.
I'm 25, so I can appreciate that he was much younger than the older person.
Yeah. Well, and then it gets sadder, but yet more interesting. Louis Gossett Jr. has had you said it yourself, so many movies that we all either know, love, whatever. Again, Roots, An Officer and a Gentleman. He was a voice in the recent movie If. He passed away on March 29th, 2024. So he only recently passed away this year.
Oh, really? I did
not realize.
I had it in my head that he passed away in 2016.
No.
I don't know why. I think because a lot of people passed away in 2016.
Probably.
No, I didn't know that. That's sad.
And he was 87.
Lived a good long life.
But he still has 10 more pieces of work that are going to come out over the next few years.
Oh, wow.
Even though he died this year.
Well, he's done
so he was
much.
working all the way through, which amazing. So some other actors that we see in this movie, Zamis. So Zamis is the baby that Jerry has. And at first is portrayed...
Grown up to be the young Drac at the end. Yes.
And Zamis is at first portrayed by a little robot baby because that
and it was adorable.
It was so cute. Little...
They actually did a really good job on the Drac baby.
It really did have the movements, and I mean, granted they had it covered in slime for a big chunk of it, but
still there I've seen.
I love when he's trying to feed it.
I've seen newer productions do a worse job using
Twilight.
Using CGI or using practical effects.
Yeah.
And this is a 1985 film where, let's face it, green screen was the way they
and
were
honestly,
going.
I don't even know. It could have been a hand puppet for all we know. I don't know. I didn't really look into that.
It looked like a hand puppet.
Yeah. It was just, it articulated beautifully like a baby.
They did a very good job of making it seem plausible.
Yes.
As opposed to implausible like Twilight.
Yes. So the actor who ended up playing Zamis because that's one thing I did appreciate. Only sometimes did they refer to Zamis and Jerry as he. It was very rare, and it was usually the bad guys doing it. But everybody else, because even in the narration with Dennis Quaid's character,
a lot of narration
they said
in this film.
It. And which it could have been they would have been better, but this was also 1985, so it was still better than what I expected. Acknowledging that the Dracs are not male or female. Yes, a majority of them in the movie are played by men, but that doesn't mean anything because obviously they have babies. But so Zamis was played by Larry C. Bumper Robinson.
There's a name.
Now, Bumper Robinson may not be somebody that you think of all the time, but I know you have heard him. If you have ever watched Futurama, he's Hermie's son, Dwight.
Oh, wow.
I know. Bumper has done so many. He does voiceovers. He acted all through. After this, he was on different TV shows, Facts of Life, and just he had little bit parts, but he was constantly acting. And then he got into doing, so for the theme parks, he does voices for some of the Batman things. I didn't see which character he does, but he does for video games and cartoons. He did some Ben 10 stuff. I mean, he's just got a lot of.
I love Ben 10.
Yeah, I knew
Ben
you
10
did.
that was a good cartoon. I really enjoyed that.
But he had a lot of, and he still does because he's still very active. And then this character honestly is only there for like a minute, and it's like the middle to the end of the movie, and he's only in like a couple scenes, and he's the bad guy. I don't even know what name he has, but his brother gets killed, and he got these big scars across his face where Zamis clawed him with his little 3 fingers. But Brian James.
He is a bad guy in a lot of films. And not even the main bad guy. He tends to be a henchman in a lot of things, but he's very noticeable.
So you may know him from Spawn. You may know him from Magnificent Seven, Blade Runner, and my other personal favorite, Fifth Element.
True. Oh, yeah, he is. Oh, my God.
So Mr. James was in a lot of movies.
We got to bring in Fifth Element.
Oh, yeah, we have to add it to our list.
The ever-expanding list of movies.
Yeah, and I loved that. I when we were watching the movie, I said I went off on a tangent because I don't usually go so deep into the actors. But this time I just kept getting drawn. I'm like, what's going on with this person? And where did this person go after that? And I know that one, but I couldn't think of the name. Carolyn McCormick is also in it.
Yes.
She it's again a small role as one of the
fighter pilots.
Is it the BTS?
BTS fighter pilot.
Which is so weird. But that was her first movie. That was her first role.
Everyone is so fresh-faced.
Oh my God, babies.
It throws me off.
I know. And I'm thinking to myself, when this movie came out, I was 11. So I don't remember them being, I mean, obviously they would have been old people to me, but at the same time, I'm looking back going, they're such babies.
Well, see, halfway through the movie, Dennis Quaid, and we'll go through all this, but, well, we won't go through all. We'll talk about it.
We're trying to be better.
But let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, we're going to go through it.
So he looks like a prospector.
Yes,
because he is scraggly. He's weather beaten. They did a really great job.
Oh yeah, no,
because he looks like Dennis Quaid now. Back then, it's like he time traveled.
He time traveled,
and then later in the movie, he had his
surgery to get the bullet out of his chest,
and he's clean shaven and his hair is coiffed, and he looks amazing. Again.
So wait, doesn't the movie take place the movie takes place, it does, in a future where Earth has become a peaceful little ball of happiness, and then we decided.
I went through that.
Don't you start with me. So then they decided to adventure and see the world or the universe.
Actually, they went to colonize.
They were colonizers.
They actually do say it, but they say it like it's a good thing.
And you know what I noticed on that space station that I'm pretty sure has movies sent to it and they have to watch them and making critiques with robots? I am pretty sure on that space station, I did not see a single person of color. And maybe I missed it during the stretcher going through the hallways scene, but
I did not.
I did not see a single person of color, of any other ethnicity other than us pale white people. And that is why they're colonizers. Oh, and I couldn't even say the word. Look at that.
You want to try it again?
Colonizers.
You did it.
Colonizer.
Okay, that's not good. That sounds like you're celebrating.
I was trying to do Britney.
I know.
I never should do Britney.
So when we start out in the movie,
yes,
we're led into this, not a space battle. Mm-hmm. It's not a space battle. It's a space convoy because they're going really slow and they're all going the same way. And the music is so over the top. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah.
It really does remind me of like the older films in which instead of having a lot of dialogue, they just had a lot of music.
I'm afraid to watch The Last Starfighter now. Am I going to be disappointed in The Last Starfighter?
No, I've seen it. It still holds up.
I mean, it's been years. So...
Yeah, but I saw it like Well, it was 10 years ago, but it still held up.
Oh, so back to where I said I didn't remember.
No, it didn't hold up. I'm joking. But it was still good. It was still
I
fun.
love The Last Starfighter. I remember
Yeah.
loving The Last Starfighter. But when I said before that I didn't remember a lot of this movie, I mean, like, I did not remember the whole beginning of this movie.
Oh.
I remember him being on the planet. I knew he crashed. I didn't remember the war. I knew they were enemies, but I couldn't remember why. I didn't remember the dude dying. Joey!
Joey Buttafuoco.
Joey Bag of Donuts, don't die on me.
That's a really old reference no one's going to get.
That's okay.
So,
someone will get it.
they're going to have a battle.
Yes.
But it's really just again, we're going to get into these themes. And the themes are there for a reason because the movie is about this. Mm-hmm. It's central. It's core to the movie. White guys shooting at anyone that doesn't look like them because they weren't shooting at anyone. They were just traveling.
Yes.
Now, maybe they were going to fire, but Dennis Quaid gave them no time.
Nope.
So they all get into this fight, and it's much like in Star Wars where the main guy doesn't get killed, but a couple of people before him do.
Yeah.
So that he can get mad and really shoot at people.
They're the red shirts. I'm going to mix my sci-fis.
Yes, you're definitely mixing the metas.
Yes.
So Dennis Quaid, in the form of Willis, goes after the ship. And he's trying to take it down. He's not listening to the guy in the back, his navigator.
Mm-hmm. Joey Bag of Donuts.
Who's, I guess, Joey Bag of Donuts. You get a brief insight to a little fat phobia.
Yeah, I caught that one too. Because Joey likes a girl. And what was her name? I don't quite remember. But I remember Dennis Quaid, his character, making a definite fat joke about her. And he was like, she's lost weight. And then in his dying breath begged her. In his dying breath, freaking dying breath, he begs, out of all the things in the world, for Dennis Quaid's character to not call her fat anymore.
Because it hurts her feelings.
Because it hurts her feelings.
Which I have to say is kind of refreshing in
It
1985.
is. And honestly, it makes me sad that Joey Bag of Donuts had to die.
That's not his actual name, by the way.
No, but I don't know what his last name was. I don't think he's actually credited with a last name. And if he is, I'm sorry, Mr. Bag of Donuts, but that is who you are now. Because now you are buried and dead on a foreign planet and no one will know you.
So, yes, he goes after a Drac ship. And he's trying to take it down. It obviously has Jerry inside of it. Mm-hmm. Willis is not striking his target, so he's getting frustrated and angry. Mm-hmm. Joey Bag of Donuts is like, hey, yo, let's get out of here. No, he doesn't say it like that. He says, let's get out of here. We can't go into the atmosphere and all of that stuff. And I don't want to get into the minutia of the film.
But he didn't listen to Joey.
That's where I'm getting to. He did not listen to Joey Bag of Donuts, his navigator, who is his friend, and he gets him killed because he's a pissy little white boy who wanted to take down a Drac.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, but that's the way I just see it.
Oh, no. And yeah, exactly. And
during this whole sequence, by the way, I want to add, although you warm up during the film, you never quite leave it, but the acting is so bad at the first of this.
Oh, no,
it's almost like
so
they did it on
bad.
purpose.
Like, honestly, I kept thinking, I didn't remember it being so bad. And then it got good. When did it get good? When Lewis got to the scene.
I mean, it got good as they were on the planet.
Yeah.
And they kind of warmed into the role.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it was just bad acting. The whole space battle was horrifying.
Oh, it was horrifying.
And there was no real action so much as just, a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And a lot of yelling. They were just yelling a lot. They crash land onto the planet.
Yes.
Fyrene 4. And it is what I like to term the foam planet because everything is made of foam.
Okay, well, that part, all of the, I can speak, people. I really promise I can. So all of the outside scenes that were filmed in, I cannot say this, guys, but I'm going to try my best, Lanzarote. It is an island in the Canary Islands that is off of Morocco. I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong, in a park called Montañas del Fuego National Park.
what scenes? Because
Those are
this
the,
is
the out,
mostly
I
made
know.
of foam.
I'm just saying the outside scenes where there wasn't foam. The rest of it was filmed in Berlin
Okay. That makes sense.
in a
That
studio.
tracks.
But yeah, I just like saying Montañas del Fuego.
So here's a question I have about the world building in this film. Because shortly after they crash and after they have their first encounter with each other, because while he crashes his ship, Willis crashes his ship, killing Joey Bag of Donuts,
Poor Joe.
and he drags him out only for his entire ship to explode. He finds the Drac, who is Jerry,
Jariba.
at his escape pod, which is perfectly intact.
I like how he's like, I could see where his escape pod crashed, or no, where his ship crashed. And honestly, and then they look off into the horizon, and then there's this tiny little wisp of smoke coming from like 17,000 miles away, and he walks across that horrifying land. There's no way he did that in a day. There's no way he did that in a day.
Well, they don't say it took him a day, but then again, it's hard to tell.
He was kind of clean for a day. It was a lot of black dirt and stuff. And how that white suit, his jumpsuit stayed white for as long as it did. Ugh. I'm sorry.
So,
Disbelief. I can't.
My question is, in this world building, in this universe, the enemy mine universe, we'll call it, does every planet have a Sarlacc pit?
I think so.
Because
that was a Sarlacc.
A brief aside, well, it's not
I mean, it
really,
wasn't, because it didn't have the
still,
teeth but it had the teeth.
It seemed like, because you see this crab-like thing walk across, and it falls into a pit, and it can't get out. And then this tentacle, or as we know it now to be a tongue of some kind, comes up and thwacks it, and drags it under and eats it. Mm-hmm. Which will play in later to Willis. But it just seems like every planet now has to have a Sarlacc pit of some kind.
Of some kind. I mean, ew.
It kind of makes sense because in an ecosystem, you're going to have some who are active hunters and some who are passive hunters.
That's true.
And this would be a passive hunter.
That little, and I want to say that little, like the tongue thing could have been like an anglerfish type of thing, but it's not. It's a tongue.
And later it breaks character, and we'll go over that too.
Yes, we will. So let's talk about Mr. Gossett Jr. only for a hot minute here. So a lot of people thought that when he was doing this movie, the Dracs have a distinct language. And so people were thinking he was using a voice modifier or something, but our friend here learned how to talk while gargling his saliva as a kid because, shit kids do. It's the whole, I can touch my nose with my tongue thing.
He didn't have cell phones.
Yeah, so, and so that's what he learned how to do. And he went to Wolfgang Peterson and he was like, hey, look, I can do this thing. And that's why the Dracs sound that way. And so the language was kind of created for the movie, but most of it is Russian said backwards.
Right.
Which I think is just really funny. But problematic here. Why does Zamis have an accent? Zamis was raised by Davidge. He'd never met Jariba.
Maybe what they're trying to get across is like many lizards, or in this case, I would say maybe they were saying it's like a dinosaur, is that they have specific vocal traits, and that may cause that accent.
Yeah.
Because they're imitating English, but it's not a native language.
But he was born and he had never spoken to any other Dracs. He had only learned English from...
Right, but you're saying it's an accent where
it could be
a structural impediment.
Yeah, it's just it was
English.
To me odd that he has such So Zamis had a very similar way of speaking as Jariba. That's what I'm saying, and it was odd since Jariba died at birth.
I get that. I'm trying to help
You're playing devil's advocate in a way that I'm like, I don't think they were
I was
thinking
playing
that deeply.
Angel's advocate.
I was thinking that they were just not thinking that clearly, and they wanted all the Dracs to sound that way.
It was 1985. They put no thought into this whatsoever.
And I really wished, and I'm sorry, y'all, that I did not check into this deeper, but I really wished I had looked to see if the Drax actors, if there were any individuals of whiteness. Because that's also another shitty thing to do. We got our white people out here colonizing everything, and our enemy,
it's
somebody
anything
dark
other
skin.
than white. Yes.
And so, I really wished that was the one thing I didn't think to look for before we started recording, and I kind of wished I had, because it's such a shitty thing.
Well, I mean, they have, and the slavers.
Yeah, and they do have slavers too. Yeah. So, yeah. And
Well, they're miners, but
miners.
they use slave labor and they actively recruit slaves.
So, did you know why there was a mine in the movie?
Because it's an enemy mine?
It's because the producers decided that nobody would understand with the written English word that enemy mine didn't mean a mine.
It meant possessive.
It meant possessive. And so they put a mine in it. I'm like, okay, so you were afraid they weren't going to get it. So now let's confuse them by putting an actual mine in the movie.
I get where they're going with it. It's a 1985 audience. You're showing them a bunch of stuff that they've probably never seen before, like Louis Gossett Jr. wearing a full suit that looks actually pretty good, especially for the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, you can't tell.
As an alien.
Oh, yeah.
And why get hung up on enemy mine? Which, as a kid, I knew exactly what that meant.
I know what it meant.
But for those that didn't, there's a mine here to clear up any confusion. So now you don't have to think at all.
Yeah, because now you're going to really think it means a mine full of enemies, because...
But you don't have to think now. It's fine. If you know it's possessive, you don't have to think. If you don't know that it's possessive, you don't have to think.
And it bothers me because I'm trying to think of how old I was when I saw this movie. And honestly, I mean, it came out in 85. I know I didn't see it when I was 11. I probably was about 12 or 13. So, I mean, I know I didn't see it right away. It had to be later.
I saw it at the drive-in.
I don't remember. I know I saw it at home.
It
I
was
didn't see
loud,
it in the movie.
even at the drive-in. It was just so loud, but I don't remember it being as startling.
I do remember really enjoying it, but it also made me very sad. And mostly because, again, as a kid, I think it was the whole, losing the parent thing, that the baby was going to, yes, it's got Davich to take care of.
Uncle.
But, because that's what Zamis calls Davich's uncle. But I think when I was a kid, I just remember it used to, maybe that's why I don't remember parts of the movie, is because I just couldn't watch the whole thing. I hated when when Jariba died and the baby was born. I hated about when they would take Zamis from Uncle. I mean, it was just, I just remember getting so sad about it. So I think that's why I didn't remember.
I don't really remember being sad about that part because he was always going to rescue him. But the part that made me the saddest is when Jerry dies.
Oh, God.
And
that
just
too.
the look on Willis's face, because all I'm thinking is he finally made a friend, because I don't think he was friends with anybody in his life. But he finally made a true friend, and then that friend is going to die and leave him there.
Yep.
And you feel bad for Jerry, but you feel worse for Willis, who has to stay behind.
And raise a baby that he doesn't really know much about, because he doesn't know much about the species
Well,
other than what
when you first see this,
Jerry.
You don't know that he's going to actually save the baby or what's going to happen.
That's true.
You especially don't think that. See, when I saw it, even this time, I forgot. I thought he was going to cut him open, not literally rip him open with his fingernails.
Yeah, that was weird. But 1985. I mean,
we keep saying that like it's a talisman.
I know. I was going to say something else, but I can't.
So something I noticed about the movie, another thing I noticed about it, is that it wasn't quite as sophisticated as when I was 15.
Oh, no. There was some janky stuff.
A lot of cutscenes that don't seem to cut together.
The random tree that fell.
Random things that happen. The cuts don't seem to mesh up. Mm-hmm. So when they cut from one scene to another, it's like time just moved.
Oh, yeah. Because one minute, he's all clean cut, cool, or Joe Cool. And the next minute, he's Shaggy.
He's a crazy prospector.
Oh, my God. He's a crazy prospector.
Enemy mine.
Enemy mine.
He's looking for gold.
Oh, my God.
He's going away.
I literally wrote mine for fuck's sake.
Well, you got a fuck in there, so that's okay.
Oh, and really quick. So this was not the first movie that Lou Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid were in together. They were in another movie together in 1983.
The Big Easy?
No.
What?
Jaws 3D.
Why did I say The Big Easy?
I don't know.
Jaws. I never saw Jaws 3D.
Me either, but it was 1983, and they were both in that movie.
That was too 3D for me. That was too many Ds.
Too many Jaws for me.
I'm only good at 2D Jaws.
That was like literally too many Jaws movies for me.
Okay, so I have a note here. It says they quickly moved to Willis Prospector phase because when he's on the planet, he talks to Jerry, or they fight a little bit, and then they decide to begrudgingly team up. But then almost immediately, Willis goes to Prospector phase.
Oh, I mean, he grasped that lifestyle and went with it. He was, whew.
It's almost like he became Randy Quaid.
I've
been waiting to put that joke in there.
I know you have. You've been holding on to that one. Yeah. So did you know that the Dracs weren't originally supposed to be Dracs from Draken?
What were they supposed to be?
They were supposed to be the Verges from Virgon, from the Virgo Nebula. But because it sounds like virgin, they couldn't do it.
Because Madonna wasn't around then?
No, she was, but yeah, no.
I mean, on the movie.
She wasn't doing, I don't think she was doing movies yet. That would have been a little out of place, but then
they
again.
They could have totally tied that in, just like Billy Ocean did with Jewel of the Nile. What?
No.
I love Billy Ocean. Okay.
I know you love Billy Ocean.
So, the planet. There's a thing that happens on the planet.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with the characters. Well, it kind of does. It has to do with Willis. When Willis travels on the planet,
yes,
you can tell in 1985, Wolfgang had never done a space opera of any kind. And, the theme, the space music themes,
yes,
are really just kind of like someone traveling on Earth through a field. They're very... I don't know, not Sound of Music, that's too thematic.
Oh my God, yeah.
No, it was just weird music for a space.
It wasn't even like a march or anything. It was just like,
I kind of know. It's almost the same music you get for travel music in Westerns.
Oh no.
Kind of like that, like not the older Westerns, but the fairly newer in 1970s spaghetti
70s,
Westerns.
Yes. Oh my God.
Kind of like
You're
that.
right. Wolfgang.
You don't get a feeling of being in space. You don't get a feeling of being on an alien planet, other than all the foam.
Well, really, if it wasn't for the prosthetics on Lou Gossett's face, you wouldn't even know that it was an alien planet, because it could just be any lava pit, because not really a lava pit, but any dark and dead place on this planet, and you wouldn't really know, because it's just, there's nothing about it that
like an island of some kind.
Though I have to admit, though, like an island somewhere off the coast of Morocco. The cool thing I thought when we were watching it was those Pepsi cans have really evolved. They've got like a weird bulbous thing on the top of them.
No, they look like a little barbell.
That was a little barbell.
Yeah, like a little rounded barbell.
That was like the only product placement that I noticed in the whole movie.
It's the only one I saw.
Pepsi Cola.
And it was like, they really aimed that Pepsi logo at you.
Yeah, even when he turns the can, you're like Pepsi, and then you're like cola.
And I was wondering at the time when I saw it this time, how many movies were doing that at the time? Because I think back then you had one sponsor, one big sponsor, and they just
Yeah.
kind of sponsored the movie throughout.
Yeah.
And I bet Pepsi just kind of sponsored the entire movie.
Yeah, and where nowadays you'll have multiple product placements in a movie.
You can't even get through a TV show without multiple. Although if you do like Eureka or even Psych, they call attention to it.
Yeah, and
Make it
that's
funny.
I love Psych with the whole Snyders of Hanover joke.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it out. And it's usually a USA show, so that makes sense.
Yes.
That tracks. or Sci-Fi
Yeah, I was
Channel.
gonna say because Eureka's on Sci-Fi. Again, so watching it now, other than my disdain for the racism and the colonization, if you ignore that, and I'm not saying that you should, but if you do, it's not a bad movie. It's held up. Like the story itself, I feel has held up. Like if they were to redo it, it would, if they kept the story true, even if they kept the mine, it wouldn't make a difference. I think that make it a bit more diverse, make it a bit more universal, but I think it would work.
I think they do a good thing badly. And what I mean by that is they avoid the great white hope trope.
Oh, yeah.
They don't make him the hero of everything. He is not the one who survived all this. They both survived. But in doing so, they kind of dismiss the struggle of the people around him
Oh, yeah. Because
to do that.
he sees all of the Dracs that are now enslaved. And while he does protect them, he defends them against that one dude, he really doesn't defend them all. And they have to learn how to fight for themselves. Which,
When he's going to get Samus.
But he was when he's getting Samus, he would have walked away and left all of them behind. He was only there to get that little boy.
Because he is still that guy.
Or that baby. Or,
He's
little
still
child.
that guy that, while he loved his friend, I have no doubt that he loved his friend.
Yeah.
I don't think he saw the Drax as people even then. He saw the people he loved as people. Mm-hmm. And then didn't see anybody else as people.
I think
Maybe that's different. Maybe they saw it differently when they made the film. But that's what I see. And that means that's my opinion,
Yeah.
not everyone's.
I do appreciate that and again, this could be me looking weirdly sideways at things, but that the religious belief of the Dracs was the Talmud. And
Oh, yeah.
it was their version of it, but it was very similar to, because David says that he reads it and he said, this sounds very similar to our people's. And so, he says, Jerry goes, well, great minds think alike. And it's the piece of the words and to listen to those words. And I really appreciate Jerry's spirituality and how he has such a faith in this. And it's funny because they don't really talk about they talk philosophy, but they don't talk gods.
Right. This is not like I don't see it as a religion.
No,
I see it as him, and this is coming from an atheist. I don't see it as a religion. I saw it as a philosophy.
Exactly.
And you can take teachings about not how to live your life, but how to make good choices in your life. And it not be a religious connotation to it.
Yes.
I don't think they had a God. I think they had people that they thought were worthy of listening to. And if you have someone who is going to tell you, these are the things I believe, and I think these are right. And you go, I understand that, and I think that's true. That is called following someone as a leader, not as a religious icon. They're not saying they have superpowers.
No.
They're not, I don't see it as that. I definitely see it as that's what it is. Their race is based on oration. They tell their family
tell their
line.
story. They tell their heritage. They memorize their lineage going back generation after generation.
So, and I'm sure there's a name for that, and it probably lends itself to oration of some kind, but it is definitely one in which, is a storytelling culture. And that book, while it may seem religious if you're looking at it as a child, like I was the first time, looking at it again, I can see it as the narration of their culture.
Yes.
More than a narration of their religion.
And I do appreciate too how they talk about the humans being, the humans are like, well, you guys were out here and you took the, the planets that we wanted or whatever. And they were like, okay, but here's the difference. Yes, we were coming out here, but we weren't staying. We were coming out here and we were seeing what was around and we were exploring, because that's what we are. We're explorers. And then we would leave. You come out here, you explore, quote unquote.
And then you colonize.
And so what you find is that the Dracs are quite peaceful people. They're in this war that they just don't know how to get out of, because they're not really there they weren't, again, like you said in the beginning, they weren't there to shoot or attack the humans. The humans attacked on defensive.
True. I don't know exactly how, true that may be as far as, the race itself being...
I kind of want to read the novella and see if there's anything...
Right.
Any
Maybe
more
it'll give us some insight to it. But I do know that no matter what you do in this film, it'll be calm. And then it goes 0 to 60 in a heartbeat. It is
and blast
so
you
quick.
Across the room.
The music will blare, and suddenly the two friends are killing each other, or trying to kill each other. And that happens throughout the movie. Not just them, but just everything is a on or off situation. Mm-hmm. There is not a mediocre attack of some kind. There's not it's half-hearted in display, but I'm talking about, if they're building a hut, it's not just building a hut. It's dun, dun, dun. And then, they attack the hut. Yeah. So, you have to really, look at this movie as these two opposite sides. Mm-hmm. You have the calm and you have the grotesquely abusive physical attributes that everyone tends to have, mm-hmm. even Jerry.
Yeah.
But it just, even the slavers, when Zamus is first, manhandled by a slaver.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to see his people from a distance.
Yeah, because he's never seen a Drac before.
Right. So he wants to see a Drac, so he finds, the slavers are not that far away, so he goes to see what they look like. And these human slavers, they get him and they start tossing him around. He scratches the face of the one guy. Then the most funny death in the entire film is when Dennis Quaid, Willis, shoots an arrow into the neck of one of those slavers, and the slaver does a turn. He's facing away from the camera to shoot Zamus.
Yeah. And
when the arrow goes through the neck, he slowly turns to look at the camera to fall. And I thought that was hilarious.
We need the good angle. The good angle.
And I'm like, at this point, I'm thinking, is it a comedy?
Well, so when they're having their argument about philosophy, they had to take the scene where Jerry calls Mickey Mouse, because that's kind of how when they were... Can you explain better the conversation with the philosophies?
So they're arguing about... They're just arguing. They're upset.
Yeah.
Okay? And Willis is more upset than Jerry. And Willis kind of half-assed makes fun of Jerry for reading in his book. And the little book on his, the chain. Mm-hmm. The book of philosophy, we'll say. And it does have a... It's
their Talmud.
Right, but it's got the name, I forget what the name of his...
Oh, it was...
leader, philosopher that they really revere
I thought Shagan was his last name, but it has an SH...
No, Shagan is his last name.
But it has an SH to it because the quote is, your something isn't shit, and I just it was the alliteration of the SHs.
Right. So when he does that, because he's been learning English this whole time, and I guess he's told him about Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
And he thinks that's also a philosopher leader of some kind, so he tells him Mickey Mouse isn't shit.
Yes. So they did this take multiple times because Dennis Quaid kept losing his shit, and just started laughing. So when the take that they keep in the movie was the only one they could get without him laughing, and he literally snickers, walks off screen, and you can hear him going. So I mean, so they couldn't even like keep it serious because of that. But the funniest scene in the whole movie, which we know it wasn't meant to be funny, but it made us both laugh out loud. And it was at the end, close to the end, when Davidge is infiltrating the slavers' base camp. Right. And the two guys are standing outside, and he comes up to them with a big old rifle, which I'll get to the guns thing in a minute, but with this big old rifle. And what does he say? They're like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "There's some trouble." "What kind of trouble?" And he this
kind of trouble.
Yeah, this kind of trouble. And he
punches.
He pistol whips them with a rifle.
Right. Well, he hits them with the butt of the shotgun and hits one and then hits the other. Yeah.
Okay, so there are some issues with guns in this movie that I have. Okay, and they're not what you're thinking, because I know you know my opinions on guns, but this is not what you're thinking. And no, I'm not one of those people who hates guns. There's a place and a time. I am just not that person who should be in that place or that time because I know my limitations. But again, this movie takes place in 2092.
Sure.
I think that's what I saw on one of the dates on one of the things. And he had a bullet lodged in him.
Right.
He used a rifle.
Yes.
And what the holy hell was he holding in his hand when he got onto that planet and he saw Lou Gossett Jr. in skinny dipping in that little river that he ends up dropping the gun to? I was expecting there to be either some weird laser coming out of that little Colt 45 in his hand.
No,
I know nothing about. I know nothing about guns. Nothing about guns. Derringer?
It looked like a Walther PPK.
Okay, well,
I could be wrong, but it was a very small gun.
It was small. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with Derringer.
Well, that's even smaller.
I know, the BB gun. But it was tricked out. It was silver, and it had like...
Well, it was tricked out so it would look futuristic.
It would look futuristic. Yeah. But honestly, I was like half expecting like a little laser that they, like, do you remember like in the movies when they would put lasers and you could tell they just scratched onto the film?
Yeah, pretty much this film.
Yes, this film. So I was expecting that. So then because again, I couldn't remember most of this beginning, so I forgot that he drops it into the water
almost immediately.
Yeah,
he has no time. He's not good with guns.
And so again, we're in the future, and what almost kills Davidge? I mean, pretty much did kill him because they thought he was dead until he got up to the satellite of love.
You can say that because they have interplanetary or interstellar travel, that they should probably be more, I don't know, advanced in weaponry.
One would think. Probably not.
But honestly, I have to say that is probably more realistic.
Probably. I guess I've just been tainted by Star Wars and Star Trek.
While they are looking to colonize, you use the technology you have.
Yeah.
And travel is not the same as weaponry.
It's true.
So I can see where maybe they stuck with conventional weaponry. Even though, why haven't they taken Drax prisoner and figure out how to make their weapons?
Yeah.
But their weapons seem very slow and ponderous too.
Yeah.
Even though they're energy based.
True. But yeah, it was just something I expected.
In Serenity or in Firefly, also bullets.
True.
There are a lot of instances in which space travel still has bullets.
I guess because, again, I grew up in a Star Trek world where I like to believe that we are beyond that type of a primitive thing.
Where we can set it to stun.
Yeah. And so I'm delusioned by it. And it almost takes me out of the sci-fi realm of what they're trying to do because, I mean, I still get freaked out knowing that when they found Khan in Star Trek, it was 1992.
Yeah, I know, that's messed
Or was
up.
it 92 or 99? I can't remember exactly, but I just remember thinking, no.
Wasn't that far in the future.
I don't remember, no, that's where he was from. That was
Yeah.
when they froze him. He was frozen. Yeah, it's been years, y'all. I have to rewatch that stuff too, because, the original is the best. Hokey as shit.
So what I really like about their friendship is that while they are antagonistic, mostly it is Willis who is antagonistic towards Jerry, because he still has this whole racist thing where I think Jerry's more zen about it.
Yes.
They learn each other's languages.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it's just really the Drac or Jerry who is learning the human language,
Yes.
or the common tongue of the humans.
Because, of course, we all speak English in the future.
Right. No one's speaking any other language
No.
but English. And not even the Queen's English.
No.
So eventually Willis, and it becomes a thing too, that Willis learns the Drac language.
Mm-hmm.
And later in the film, it becomes important, not just because his people think, well, this is crazy, or BTS guy,
Yeah.
fighter pilot, which is also a weird way to refer to someone who's flying a spacecraft, can speak Drac, and all of a sudden they bring him to get him fixed. They're gonna get him fixed because he's been shot.
And he cleaned up really, really well for somebody who was windburned and filthy and probably, had scurvy, needed an orange or 3.
But at the end of the film, his knowledge of the Drax culture, his training that he gets from Jerry, in which he goes through Jerry's lineage, which became a thing that they share between each other.
Mm-hmm.
While Jerry was pregnant, Willis shared with Jerry his parents and his grandparents. And Jerry, in turn, shared his entire lineage going back hundreds of generations. Through song, and he had to learn all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't actually have him go through it in the movie. I actually would have liked
I know.
that to happen.
I would have liked to have seen Dennis Quaid standing there singing Jerry's lineage.
Right, in the Drax language.
Oh, yeah.
Reverse Russian.
Yes,
or
sir.
I call it reverse Uno.
Okay.
So, it would have been nice to have that. But it cuts away very abruptly to the end of the movie. I mean, so much so you're like, what just happened? Is the movie over? What do I do with this popcorn?
Well, and the reason why he has to learn the lineage is so that someday, because Jerry hopes that someday Davidge will, or Davidge, not Davidge, he is going to take.
You can just call him Will. We know him by now.
I know, Will. I know, I keep forgetting his name is Will. That he will one day take Zamis back to the original Draken planet and present him to the elders. And
Right.
the only way to do that is to know that lineage. And that way he could teach it to Zamis so Zamis can present the lineage and become, welcomed by their people. Honestly, I think the other slaves in the mine could probably be like, I'll vouch for him,
I mean, but they're kind of incidental.
They really are.
They're not treated as, oh, you helped me, which it could have very well turned into that Great White Hope
I know.
thing where he saved us, but really they helped save him,
Oh, definitely.
which was a nice touch. They save him from the bad guy, the quote unquote bad guy, which is really just a slaver.
Yeah.
These are very big themes. And then what ends up happening in the film is a very small, isolated theme where a slaver gets his ass kicked.
Basically, and that would be Mr. James.
So in the area of these galactic conquests and everything, we're talking about a very small story within that.
Yeah.
And outside of that, there's no real world building really at all. Now, in the novella, it may be different.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's definitely something we should look into getting, because I would like to read that and see what the difference is, because we all know the book is usually better.
It may not be. It may not be. Even
It is
as
a
fleshed
novella,
out.
but
Yeah.
it did win 2 awards. But that doesn't also mean anything, because again, I have a Hugo Award.
So I think that if you take those big themes and you apply them to a movie, you have to have big themes for it. But instead of doing that, they just made big sounds.
They did make big sounds.
So while it's not a bad movie,
No,
I don't think it necessarily holds up as far as like the, if you like the action, if you like space effects, and if you like CGI,
really
you're
weird
not going to like this.
baby births. Yeah.
But it has its moments.
It does. And again, I think it could be redone well.
I think it has its place, and I think
it's not timeless. Definitely not timeless.
No.
But I think the story is timeless. The movie is not. I think we could do the movie better. I don't think we could cast it better, but I do think we could do the movie better. Special effects, other than that baby, because you're right, the baby was perfect.
I think they did a great job. Even if there's a part where the baby is moving its arm, its right arm kind of moves in a very realistic baby way, which is kind of grasping out, and it holds his finger.
Oh, yeah.
The hand goes onto his finger. And I was like, that is excellent. That is so well done.
Oh, definitely. No, it was believable in the way the baby moved, even slowly. It didn't have maybe the natural movements of a baby. It was a little bit unnatural, but it was still the best I have seen in especially, again, 1985. But with that not into consideration, get rid of the really bad music and get rid of the pew pew. Because even the ships have those.
I think it aspired to be a space opera.
Oh, I think
and
it did.
really was a space
Ditty.
Pop rock, maybe.
Ditty.
Yeah, it's like a space jingle.
Yeah.
More than anything else. But I don't think that it diminishes the two characters' interactions. I think that the things that happened around them were these huge overarching things.
Yeah.
But when you get down to a lot of themes about movies like this, it's all about relationships. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about two people who find common ground because they have two diametrically opposed cultures.
Yes.
And both of them feel they are right. Now, one is more right than the other.
Yes.
In my eyes.
Oh, I agree.
But they find a common ground. They find a friendship. I hate that Jerry had to die.
I do too.
To make that point. But without that, it doesn't proceed.
Yes.
And we can do a Castellini test really quick.
Yeah, there's only one. And does she have a name? I think she has a name.
Well, Jerry is both
male and female.
What they want to call hermaphroditic, but not.
Not, yeah.
Both male and female. So we can say that Jerry is a female.
Yeah.
But
never speaks to anybody else.
They're the only one with any lines.
It's very difficult because it is mostly a cast of two. I mean, there are ancillary characters, but it is a cast of two.
She doesn't say anything the whole time. I think she has maybe a line.
That's Will Stavich. Are you crazy? He's not a spy. And that was her big line.
And then swoon. No, she didn't swoon.
No, she didn't really swoon. I think she wanted to kick him in the nuts at one point.
I know, but she's beautiful.
She's so pretty.
She was so pretty. The eyes. Mm-hmm. Oh, they'll get you with the eyes every time.
And here's the thing. I love when he was in the ship and he's like, open the doors. And they're like, because he's stealing a ship to go back to the planet. And they're like, and he's like, open the doors. And they're like, turn off the ship. Turn off the spaceship. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you either open the doors or I'm going to make some doors.
No, it's like he's playing chicken with the ship from inside the ship.
I know. I'm thinking, and what's with the exhaust going?
Because he's revving
the engine on this fighter.
In 1985, you had to rev the engine on the Impala. On the Impala spaceship.
That runs on petrol because that's what caused
it's the red petrol.
It was the combustion engine.
That's exactly what it was.
And there was exhaust all through that place, man. It was crazy. But yeah, he shot a hole in the doors that should have, if they had just opened them up, and then the doors kind of sucked themselves out into outer space.
But that's where you get to see that they do have the technology for lasers, but only for ships.
Yes, so they did have laser beams.
Large ships.
Women's lasers.
They can't make women's lasers. They're too small. Our dainty hands won't handle them.
Parks
Only
and Rec.
men in giant ships can
With
shoot a
exhaust
laser.
problems.
With exhaust
They
problems.
need a new Cadillac converter.
A Cadillac converter, exactly.
Way too many jokes today.
If they had 3 drag queens and a Cadillac, they could have gotten through there. Tied it back.
Oh. Well, needless to say.
So, it was a bomb. It was a box office bomb.
It really was. And that's kind of disappointing, too, because I thought people, well, again.
You really can't judge a movie by the box office, but back in 1980s, they did judge it a lot by the box office.
They did. Where we tend to judge I don't personally because I don't really give a crap, but a lot of people do judge their movies based off the Rotten Tomatoes score. And I honestly don't care because sometimes I like a movie regardless of what they say. I think that, again, they're trying this novella was award winning, and we're in 85, so we're coming off
What kind of award?
A Hugo Award and a Nebula Award.
Do you know anything about Hugo Awards?
I have one.
You have a Hugo
Well,
Award?
I mean, I'm in a group of people who have written short stories in an archive, and it won the award, and we are all allowed to take claim. We were told many years ago in a galaxy far, far away. So
I had no idea.
I put it on my resume once. I took it off because I thought it was stupid because I got sick of explaining it. But
You don't have to explain it if you're a Hugo Award winner. You just
damn it, it says it right there. But
see, I can't put my award on my CV because it's a Bruno Award, and we don't talk about Bruno.
I thought we were done with that last week.
That joke's never going to get old. It bombed at the box office, but it went to many different countries.
It did.
And in those countries, they have different titles for this movie.
Oh, no.
In Denmark, it's called Enemies. Just enemies.
Okay.
Not bosom buddies, but
Just
enemies. In Finland, it's At the Mercy of the Enemy.
Ooh.
Finland goes darker with it.
Yeah.
Hungary, My Dear Enemy. I like that. It's like, I love you,
Yeah.
my dear enemy. Also, I'm hitting you while I'm
Yeah.
hugging you. Japan, it's called Fifth Planet, which makes no sense because it's on the 4th planet.
But again, it might have something to do with the book, which we don't know.
That's true, too. So in Japan, they renamed the Drax. And I'm not going to try to pronounce what they call it in their own tongue.
Uh-huh.
But I will say that it's translated literally as Draco Aliens or Draconians.
Draconians. Okay. I know that in the UK, they cut off some of the movie to clean it up to become more PG and less. I forget what they call it there. It's not R-rated, but I forget what they call it. And it was the scenes with the severed ears. They cut those scenes.
Oh, the part where the augur tears the guy apart, the slaver apart.
Yeah, and it was the severed ears. Because you see them in two different scenes.
Well, you see the foot, and then you see the ear.
Yeah. And so...
Das Boot.
Das Boot. And so, they kind of cut that part out. But they added it back a few years later, though.
I just want to point out, I know that means the boat. I don't want anyone to think I don't know,
I know.
that means the boat.
Okay, it still was funny, though. Because...
No. I was making the joke, but I don't want people to think that I didn't know it meant the boat.
Okay.
Because I just like saying Das Boot.
It is funny, especially because it was a boot. Okay. So, I mean, because I know I've just keep spilling about things I felt about it. How did you, what differences did you, that kind of made you kind of...
What is it you're asking me?
I don't know. I do have some more funny little things, though, for the beginning of the movie. But
So when I first saw the movie, again, I was like 15. We were at a drive-in. Really, you're there for the environment more than you are the movie. So I didn't really watch it that close, although it was very loud. I remember I enjoyed it because at that age, any space movie is fun. But it got boring because they were on the planet a lot. And I don't think I stayed around to just... I was there to hang out with my friends while my parents stayed in the car.
Yeah.
So I would go play with them and stuff while the movie happened around us.
Yeah.
I did see it. I just don't remember all the pieces to it. And then seeing it this time, after probably seeing it another time or two over the years, much earlier on, probably in the early 90s. I have to say that really it just a lot of blaring things.
Yeah.
There's one thing you say about this movie, it's blaring because the music is very blaring. It just hits you in the face. And then the cuts are very blaring.
They're abrupt, yeah.
So the production itself is blaring.
Yeah.
But the friendship is worth watching for.
Definitely. And again, like you were saying, it was a flop, but I think they were kind of hedging on the popularity of Star Wars. Because, you see, Star Wars, we got 79. I want to say 84 was when Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but honestly,
and not saying that they were trying to...
I would have chosen The Black Hole over this movie.
But I think they were still on that, it's, like how right now we're at a superhero slump after a superhero feast. We were like all about the superhero movies.
We were inundated with superheroes.
And we were like happy, but now we're like, it's not that we're not getting enough superhero movies. They're just not doing the same thing for us, that we're not getting the same dopamine rush from them. And I think that's what they were talking, that we're going through that. We had, Star Wars, and people were like, oh my God, because there was nothing like this before.
Well, not just Star Wars, but we had Star Trek movies.
And we had Star Trek movies, and we had
The Last Starfighter.
And, and space was, the thing to do movies about. And I think maybe they were hedging their bets on the popularity of this novella. And again, those two awards, because it is, a big deal. If you have a story that was written that was just so popular, and then just unfortunately it couldn't live, it was in that slope down of people were losing their taste for it.
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I know this was a career move for Dennis Quaid to do a space movie, but honestly, I think he hit better in comedies.
He did. I mean, yeah, no, he did.
It was a vehicle,
definitely
a spaceship vehicle.
I mean, and it was also a step out of place for Lou Gossett Jr. too, because I mean, while he had done a lot of different things and has played a bunch of different characters, Jerry was just unlike anything. And he had a blast playing Jerry. From what I read, he really had some fun with it because, again, he used that gargling spit thing and he was like, look what I can do.
I think when you look at it as a whole, it is a movie worth trying again for.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe make the themes a little bit more cohesive.
Definitely. And
still, if they can manage to avoid the great white hope, and maybe not have it so, pardon the pun, so black and white.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Because it's not going to be about this idealized situation of one side or the other. There's a whole lot of grays they could have gotten into in their friendship, but really you only ever see these flip-flops of one side or the other. They only ever are antagonistic or friendly. There's never that point where they're just tired of each other, or like even though when we're going crazy and they choke each other.
I think we're going mad.
It's an on and off situation.
Yeah. I think if they were to redo it, they need to, if they were to cast anybody, and I don't know anybody off the top of my head that I would name, but definitely an androgynous, even with the prosthetics on, it's still Lou Gossett Jr. You know who that is. Especially you're going into this movie. I think
you can lose that. I think you lose that in the movie.
Well, I think that and again, I could be wrong because I'm gonna throw this back out there, but 1985 male pregnancy on screen, I don't necessarily feel that was so. Well, I mean, obviously it wasn't because it didn't have a good, result in the box office. So I have to wonder if that was a factor as well.
I don't think it did because it wasn't a focal point. I think it was wow, that just happened.
Yeah.
But it really...
I mean, I do remember being shocked about it. as
right,
a kid.
but it moved. It
Yeah.
moved itself through. That was just a plot point, but it
Yeah.
moved through because you get to the child.
There was another fat shaming part too.
What's that?
So when the meteorites that he calls meteors, but they're
Oh,
meteorites,
yes.
and
Fat and lazy. Yes.
yeah, he called him fat and lazy, and that's why he couldn't run, and because he's eating all the time, and it was because he was in his early stages of pregnancy and he was starting to put on the weight.
Although I think communication could have probably solved that.
Oh yeah, because if he had just said to Will, dude, I got myself knocked up.
Why were you hiding it when your whole thing is surviving?
Exactly. And I do like that he says, because he's like, well, why did, because Will, when he finds out, he's all, ha ha ha, he thinks it's funny, but not in a, I'm laughing at you, I'm laughing at this situation type of thing. Because I do think he cared about him in that sense where he wasn't going to try to hurt his feelings.
I do like well, don't look at me.
Yeah, I like that.
I didn't do it.
Don't look at me. But, and I had so many bad jokes for that, and I had to like shut my mouth. I do think that it was important that when Will was laughing at him or laughing at the situation of him being pregnant, he said, well, why would you do that? And he's like, where your species, you can plan this. In my species, it's a case of, like you said, survival. So right. I don't have a choice. It happens when it happens, which that in itself is scary if you think about it.
Yeah, you don't know when it's going to happen, and that was the worst time for him because they were on a planet that they couldn't really.
Yeah, and Jerry was, and he was hurt, and he, because the thing from within the grounds.
Okay, yes, that's true.
Because we don't have a name for it.
The Sarlacc pit monster, the Sarlacc itself,
the turtle-eaten thing,
instead of being where it was, where they shot it, and it apparently did not kill it, it moved to underneath their hut.
Keep in mind, this had gone from this desolate, heated area to a snow-covered tundra with sideways icicles and everything. And this thing probably was seeking them out through the heat, I would assume, from their fire.
But it's a passive hunter, and it's always been in the same spot,
yeah,
and suddenly it's underneath their hut.
Yeah, it's aggressive. And I said it got the taste for man meat when it grabbed his leg. Man meat.
But it went after...
It didn't go after Will. It went after Jerry. And so, yeah, Jerry got pretty hurt. And they had to relocate
to the cave.
And Jerry was pretty hurt. But then the baby was a-coming. And Jerry died. Poor Jerry.
Right.
He died a better death than Joey Bag of Donuts, R.I.P.
That is true. He didn't die due to incompetence.
He did not.
Of another character.
Because Joey knew his shit. Rest in peace.
Joey told him, you got to turn back.
Can't go that way.
The flux capacitor. Wrong movie. So... It will not pass the Castellini test.
It will not pass.
We're not going to go through all three because it won't even pass the first one.
Nope.
So, feminism, and that's to be expected.
I mean, honestly, there was really no chauvinism. Because other than him making fun of the girl that Joey Bag of Donuts likes,
but that was fat phobia. That was
not chauvinism,
right?
Because there was no sexist conversation. Because even with Carolyn McCormick's character, nobody was like, hey, tits, what's going on? No one was
trying to elicit a relationship.
Exactly, there were no relationships.
The military unit of the humans almost reminds me of maybe a more regimented or maybe a less Marine style.
Starship Troopers.
I
knew you were going to say Starship Troopers.
Because...
Great Yes song. It's one of my favorites.
Because they are the Aryan nation.
They really are.
For all intents and purposes, they are stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made that way on purpose.
Yeah.
But these guys are like the lesser version. They're almost like the Aliens world. Where we're talking like Ripley and, Aliens.
Yeah.
They're almost like that version of Marines.
Mm-hmm.
if you were to put Starship Troopers into that world.
Yeah. So one thing I might have missed, because again, I was taking notes. Wills wears a white uniform because, again, when he goes back onto the planet to save Zamis, he blends in beautifully with those black rocks in that white
With the white
jumpsuit.
It's not it's not camouflage.
But honest to God, that I love that shade. Literally, the room we are sitting in right now, the walls are the color of the jumpers that his team.
Oh yeah, that cerulean.
That is such
kind
a
of
yeah.
look
You know,
to
I
it.
love that blue or that greenish blue.
That's going to be the color my hair's going to be.
And again, that's the color of the walls in the room that we're sitting in at the moment. So it is.
I didn't really realize that. I'll blend in.
Oh, but that is just like a pretty color to me. And it was funny that was the color of their uniforms. And I'm like, they be styling.
They really were. And I don't know. I mean, again, because the world building isn't really there, you don't know if that means
It's
different
a rank, or yeah, like on Star Trek, it's a rank for color. And because when they were going through when the automated stretcher was, ambulancing down the hallway, you saw different jumpers, but they really
Right.
meant absolutely nothing.
And I think it was just decoration.
Yeah, that satellite of
anything
love.
else.
It was,
But it was a very, honestly, they should have had those throughout for the fighters.
Oh,
and then
definitely.
you'd know
Oh,
cerulean.
look at that.
That's for the Starship
Troopers.
fighter pilots.
Well, if you want to watch Enemy Mine, and honestly, give it a chance. Don't go by our opinions on it, because these are our feelings. We're opinionated. You can watch Enemy Mine. You can rent it. It's not free anywhere that we could find. Google Play, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV. I think Fandango as well, and it runs about $3.59 to $3.99 per rental.
Whether it's HD or SD. So.
Yeah, it's pretty equal all the way around. I don't hate this movie. I mean, it's got its issues. I won't call it problematic. It has its issues though, but and again, well, I mean, it is problematic because the racism is problematic. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, the racism is the point.
It is the point.
So
it is the point because it is the
say
two.
That's the problem. I think problematic would be.
I think the problematic part is the fact that they have. It's literally white against black, and the white is good, but even though they prove that the white is not good, and that is true, they do prove that.
I think the problematic point of this movie is not that, but at the end there's no resolution of any kind.
That is true.
Now, they allude to the fact that Dennis Quaid as the white human is going to somehow bridge the gap because he loves this child and his friend.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe that's what happens, but they don't give you anything beyond he just goes there.
Yeah, I mean, because if that was the case, then definitely you would be like cringing and leaning into that Great White Hope thing.
I don't think so. I think it's just about. I mean, the bridge has to be somewhere, and really, Jerry's the one that did the bridging.
He did do the bridging, so he would be, then I guess Wills would be the Great White Liaison.
Right. No, and that's acceptable.
Yes.
Liaison's acceptable. He didn't dictate the terms.
No, he didn't.
He just accepted the responsibility that Jerry gave him.
And that was to protect and watch over and bring Zamis back home.
Right. That's our opinion. But if you have an opinion that differs, or you want to tell us about movies that you like, or movies you want us to not review, but to go through that emotional journey with you, perhaps you could send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Or you could find us on Blue Sky and Instagram at omwfpod.
And if you go over to Instagram, last week for Tu Wong Fu, I did also post our patron saint of Once More with Feelings, Miss Alice Drummond, who's sadly missing from this movie.
I know this is the first movie we've done that we didn't have her in it.
I know. And I feel like...
I wonder if she's like maybe a key grip.
Key grip. I just think that she could have had a walkthrough part in the Satellite
Just
of Love.
slowly shuffle across the foam planet.
No, I was thinking,
with the blaring
oh
music.
my God. No, I was thinking more like, she could have been the guy with the ear.
That could have been Alice.
That could have been Alice.
He took her job.
He took her job so much. Oh my God. So yes, our patron saint has been posted on the Instagram. That's my domain. So, tell me how I'm doing it wrong, y'all, because Instagram befuddles me on a good day.
I'm very good at blue skying. I sky in blue. I really just post what you post on Instagram onto Blue Sky. I don't really...
Well, I used to be good at live journaling, but, that was a waste of time.
It's not so live anymore.
And MySpace.
So, yeah, just send us an email. Follow us on social media. Subscribe, hit the bell. Oh, this is
that's not YouTube.
Although we are on YouTube as well.
Yes,
you can find us on YouTube podcasts.
You can find us where you listen to all your favorite podcasts.
Where all greater podcasts are sold.
I was so excited when I pulled up Amazon Music this morning to pull up Christmas songs for my students, which no, I did not hear Wham. I saw it, but I had the volume
Last
down.
Christmas wasn't on?
Yes, it was on. But I couldn't hear it, so I'm not claiming it.
Okay,
so I cannot say that I lost the game yet.
That's fair.
We play Whamageddon every year, y'all. So I've lost.
I win almost all the time.
In the last couple of years, I've lost already before the third. And so the fact that it is now the sixth and I have not lost.
And I hate that because I actually like the song.
I love the song, but again, it doesn't matter which version it is. It just can't be Wham's actual original version. So, we had a substitute today and I was pulling that up and I'm like, hey, you want to see where my podcast is? And we were on some of the top for our name. So that made me so excited to see our name up on the Amazon.
We're slowly building. I just want us to be able to talk about the things we enjoy. We have guests
planned, yes,
that will be on. We've got a few set up. We wanted to get some of our picks in.
Yes.
And when our guests come, they get to do their pick, and we will go over their ideas, and we will talk about what made their journey special with the movie or the music or the books that they enjoyed, either as children or as adults.
This is a new podcast, and while Beth has more experience with podcasts than I do, we're getting our feet wet here, and we're just trying to figure out and make this as organic and natural sounding as we can, because we enjoy this, and we want to make sure that you guys are enjoying it too. So if there's something that just doesn't sound right, or something that we're doing great with, please let us know, because that really, it helps us be better. And we would like to someday, be able to do special things with you guys, like, all the other crazy podcasts out there, and through Patreon and do a live show. We would love to do that. Oh my God, a watch along. That would be so much fun.
We could do a live watch along would be awesome.
Oh my God. Okay. So,
we'd like to maybe do it for charities like the Trevor.
Oh yeah, definitely. And me, I'm always trying to, raise money for my special needs kids, because again, I work with severe and profound kids, and they need all the love they can get, especially with the way things might be going. So we're a little nervous, and we're just gonna keep our fingers crossed.
You know something, Jerry? Your great Shizma eats shit.
Come on. Your Mickey Mouse is one big stupid dump.